John chapter 11. This is the story of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. 7 signs in the book of John, and we are now at sign number 7. This points to Jesus' power over death, and we're going to talk about why that is significant and different than some of the other resurrections he has performed throughout the Gospels. Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and his sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Mary and Martha were sisters. Mary was the one who anointed Jesus' feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. She was most likely also a former prostitute, or a prostitute at that time, but now she is not. And her brother was Lazarus. The sisters therefore sent to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. The sisters knew that Jesus was fond of Lazarus and loved him. And they sent word and said, please come help. Verse 4, but when Jesus heard, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified by it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. When therefore he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. So he gets the letter, tells his disciples this sickness is not going to lead to death. Okay. Stays there 2 days longer. Verse 7. Then after this, he said to the disciples, let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were now seeking to stone you, and you're going to go back there again? And Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of the world. But if anybody walks in darkness, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. So he's saying, Jesus is only going to be around for a little longer. Let's see the next chapter. The next chapter starts the last week of his life. So this is nearing the end of that full year of ministry, getting into what we might call Passion Week, the last week of Jesus' life here on earth. And he's saying, you work during the daytime, 12 hours. But when it's at night, you can't walk around properly. You're going to bump into things. It's about to change. It's light now, but it's about to change. Verse 11, this he said, and after this he said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go that I might awaken him out of his sleep. And the disciples think he's speaking literal. The disciples therefore said, Lord, if he sleeps, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. Now Jesus was speaking of his death, but they thought he was speaking of literal sleep. Then Jesus therefore said to him plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, so that you may believe. Let us go to him. That's interesting. Thomas therefore, who is called Didymus, said to his fellow disciples, let us also go that we might die with him. He doesn't really know what's going on. He doesn't really get it, but he's enthusiastic, and that's great. So when Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. Martha, therefore, when she heard that Jesus was coming, went to meet him, and Mary still sat at the house. Martha, therefore, said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. And Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said, I know that he will rise again at the resurrection of the last day. So, he's trying to comfort her. Jesus knows what he's going to do. He's going to raise Lazarus from the dead, but he waited specifically so that the 4th day would have come about. Martha believes that Jesus can do anything. Martha knows and is assured that her brother who is dead will be resurrected one day, as we all will. And she believes that. But Jesus makes this fifth I am statement here in verse 25. Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me shall live even if he dies. And anyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? And she said, Lord, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God. Now, we've had a couple confessions in the book of John. Peter is one of them who confessed this. Now we have Martha also confessing this. Her phrase is, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, even he who has come into the world. And when she had said this, she went away and called Mary, her sister, saying secretly, the teacher is here and is calling for you. And when she heard it, she rose quickly and came to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Mary had met him, where Martha had met him. The Jews then who were with her in her house and consoling her, when they saw that Mary arose up and quickly went out, following her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Therefore, when Mary came where Jesus was, she saw him and fell at his feet, saying, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And she says exactly the same thing her sister did, and she's correct. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and was troubled. And he said, where have you laid him? And they said to him, Lord, come and see. And the short of the verse of the Bible is right here. John chapter 11, verse 35. It just says, Jesus wept. And it's amazing to think about, why would Jesus weep? Why would he weep if he knows exactly what's going to happen? It's almost like, no, just wait for it, just wait for it. I'm about to do this amazing miracle. But he grieves because he is saddened. This is his friend. He's saddened with Mary and Martha. He is weeping with those who weep, and he also weeps. Verse 36. And so the Jews were saying, behold, how he loves him. They recognized that Jesus loved Mary and Martha and Lazarus. Now, Jesus is fully God, 100%, and 100% man. And oftentimes we have those examples of emotions or human characteristics. We might have him eating and drinking and becoming tired. We have him weeping. Those are emotions, fully God, fully man. But some of them said, could not this man who opened the eyes of those who were blind have kept this man from dying? It's a legitimate question. Jesus, therefore, again, being deeply moved within, came to the tomb. Now it was a cave, and a stone was laying against it. Jesus said, remove the stone. Martha, the sister of the deceased, said to him, Lord, by this time there would be a stench. He had already been dead 4 days. Now, in this passage, it tells us 2 times how many days he's been dead. And for us, it's just a matter of information, but for them, it was a matter of significance. For some reason, they equated that the spirit stayed with the body about 3 days in the proximity or something like that. So for Jesus to do a miracle as he's done 2 times before in the Gospels, to healing, I think, a girl and a son, he healed them the day they died. So say it's 3 o'clock, he goes there 4 or 5 o'clock, brings them back to life. Someone might say, well, they weren't really dead because they might have just been sleeping or who knows. Okay, so if you want to prove that, then let someone die for 24 hours, 48 hours, 4 days. Then you can see that power is exactly the same. So, in their mind, they viewed it differently. And Jesus is trying to show them more and more that it's beyond shadow of a doubt that he has the power over death. And that's what this sign is, that he has the power over all this. Verse 40, Jesus said to her, "Did I not say to you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" And so they removed the stone, and Jesus raised his eyes and said, now this is Jesus praying to God the Father. "Father, I thank thee that you heard me, and I know that you hear me always, but because of the people standing around, I said it." Right? There's a reason he's praying out loud, so that those that are there would hear and listen, that they may believe that you did send me. Verse 43. And when he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." And he who had died came forth, bound hand and foot in wrappings, and his face was wrapped around with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." Many therefore of the Jews who had come to Mary and behold what he had done believed in him. But some of them went away to the Pharisees and told them the things which Jesus had done. Jesus knew that this final act, this final miracle here is probably going to get him into some really big trouble. And perhaps that's why he saves it to near the end of his ministry. And it's interesting to think about. So Lazarus died and went to be in the presence of God the Father, fully conscious. His body went into the tomb, and Jesus revived him back. He resurrected and brought him back. But Lazarus eventually would have to die again. That's interesting. I wonder if Lazarus was happy about coming back, right? To go from paradise to earth again. I don't think I would be. I would have thought, no, I want to go back. It was far better there than it is here. But this was done so that people might believe. And also think about how Lazarus might have felt. If you know that your best friend is the greatest physician, doctor, healer, miracle worker, and you catch a cold, or you catch something even worse, wouldn't you maybe think, it's okay. My best friend is Jesus, and I know he's going to come through for me. And that's probably what he held on to until the day that he died. That's really interesting, that even with that fact of him having the best friend, who is Jesus, he still walked through that, trusting him, and then comes back to life. It's interesting. Here's how the story continues in verse 47. Therefore the chief priests and the Pharisees convened a council and were saying, "What are we doing? For this man is performing many signs. If we let him go on like this, all men will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation." So they had a couple different motivations here. But a certain one of them, Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year, said to them, you know nothing at all, nor do you take into account that it is expedient that for you that one should die for the people, and that the whole nation should not perish. They're saying it's better for us to kill Jesus than for the Romans to kill many of us. It's interesting because they exchanged his life for many in their mind. That's what he's doing, is laying his life down for the many of us. Verse 51, now this he did not say on his own initiative, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus was going to die for the nation. That's kind of cool. And not for the nation only, but that he might also gather together into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. It's not just going to be Jews and Gentiles. It's going to be one church. For from that day on, they planned together to kill him. So for the past 24 months, they were upset at Jesus and wanted to seize him and wanted to kill him. But now it's been ramping up, and finally this event, the raising of Lazarus after 4 days in the tomb, that's it. That's the final straw. They convened a meeting, and they found they were planning on killing him. Verse 54, Jesus therefore no longer continued to walk publicly among the Jews. He knew this was coming. But went away from there to the country near the wilderness, into the city called Ephraim. And there he stayed with his disciples. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand. This is the final Passover, where he's going to lay down his life for the world. It's at hand. It's actually 7 days away. It's a week away. And many went up to Jerusalem out of the country before the Passover to purify themselves. During the Passover, all the males of the nation of Israel should go to Jerusalem to bring their sacrifices and their offerings. So the population would just boom during this time, during the Passover. Therefore, they were seeking for Jesus, and were saying to one another, and they stood in the temple, "What do you think? That he will not come to the feast at all? Do you think we're not going to see Jesus during this trip?" Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knows where he was, that he should report it, that they might seize him. So now there's spies around. If you see him, say something, speak up. And this is the tension that Jesus is going to live with for the next week of his life that we call Passion Week. Okay, see you next time.